What if the pain or tightness in a C-section scar isn't just physical, but emotional or even energetic? In today's episode, I share with you three jaw-dropping case studies that reveal how fear, anger, and other people's energies can live inside scar tissue, and what happens when those hidden layers are finally released. You'll hear how intuitive awareness and emotional attunement can transform stubborn scars that no technique could touch. If you've ever wondered why tissues won't let go, this conversation will completely change how you approach healing. Hello, friends. This is Lynn Schulte, and you are listening to the Birth Healing Summit podcast. We are here for meaningful conversations that will transform the way you work with pregnant and postpartum clients. Whether it is a new perspective, tool, or technique, you'll be able to implement it into your practice today. I invite you to sit back, listen with an open mind, and grab the golden nugget today's guest has to offer. Now let's get started. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this podcast episode. Today, I want to share with you a couple of case studies around C-section scar tissue. But before I dive into that, I just want to remind you all that the doors are open for registration for the 2027 Birth Healing Intensive Program. And if you're interested in learning what to do when challenging stuff comes up in a session, when you're not quite sure why tissues won't let go, more force is not the answer. So please just keep that in mind. The Birth Healing Intensive is designed to give you options for how to work with what is coming up in your sessions, the big emotions, the traumas that you find, or when tissues just really won't let go. That's what this Birth Healing Intensive is exploring and teaching you how to better support your clients in getting to the root cause of what's really being held in their tissues. We really focus in on developing a greater therapeutic presence for you so that your clients can resonate more with you, to find a more calm and peaceful sense of that in their body, and also how to dialogue, how to ask the right questions, how to develop a greater intuition so you can let that guide you in your sessions, because man, that sure does take the pressure off of you as a clinician when you can allow your intuition to better guide you. And there's so much. It's the culmination of my life's work. Everything that I've learned in the 35 years of working with clients, I put in my heart and soul into this program. And it's just extremely powerful work that is changing not only the students who take this program, their clinical practice, but also their personal lives as well, and how they're showing up in the world. And that is the greatest joy of all, is for me to see the changes in the students from the beginning to the end. And just absolutely love this program. If you have any inkling of interest, I just invite you to fill out the application for the Birth Healing Intensive, and we will jump on a call. Once you submit it, we'll get on a one-on-one call, and I can answer any questions you might have. And we just want to make sure that you are a right fit for the program, and the program's a great fit for you. So there's no high pressured sales. Please don't hesitate filling out the application. Just if you have even the inkling, the smallest inkling of interest in that program. So, all right, let's dive into today's episode. And I want to share with you a couple of different case studies on C-section scar tissue. There's three different case studies I want to share. And many of these have happened years ago, but they just stand out because they were so profound that I remember the most of the case studies. So this one client came in. She was a very well-known and respected doula in my area. And she came to see me because she was having pain in her C-section scar. And she had a vaginal birth with her first child, and then a C-section. She had a daughter first, and then she had a C-section with her son 2 years later. And she came to me with pain with her C-section scar. Well, as I tuned into her body, my hands, my intuition led me to her left hip, as that's where there's a big block of energy in her left groin hip area. And as I helped her to tune into that area, I was like, what do you sense going on here? And she immediately remembered her first birth that, and I don't believe she shared this with me in her intake. Okay, just want to clarify that. I don't think I had any idea that this is what was being held in these tissues. But as I drew her attention to this area, she says, oh, well, in my first birth, they had to break my daughter's clavicle to get her out because she had shoulder dystocia. And I was like, oh, okay, that's a little bit. I say that facetiously, but that's a lot of trauma to be held in this area. And I helped her to just kind of reprocess that birth and clear away the trauma and help her to feel more complete or healed with that experience. And after I cleared that energy, then I was able to go to her C-section scar. And as I tuned into it, I got the intuitive hit that there was a lot of fear being held in the tissues. So I again brought her attention to the tissues and just asked her, like, what do you notice here? What do you feel or sense is being held here? And I can't remember if she remembered or she knew what was being held there or not. And if she didn't, here's how I would approach that. I would just say, well, so this is what I'm sensing. Feel free to throw it away if it doesn't resonate with you. I'm not attached to this, but I'm really sensing there's a lot of fear being held in these tissues. And as they become aware of that, there is a shift and change in the tissues if we're on the right track. But what I noticed, or what I just had a knowing about, and knowing is a intuition. That knowingness is part of a way that your intuition can talk to you. And I have a strong knowingness when I work with my clients, and I just knew that the fear she was holding in these tissues was not her own. Actually, I think what happened during the session is that as I held the tissues, I go, wow, you were really okay with that C-section, weren't you? And she was like, yeah. And I go, wow, it makes sense after what you experienced with that first birth that you would be much more comfortable having a C-section. You wouldn't want that to happen again. And she was like, yeah. And I said, wow, I wonder if this fear is everybody else's fear. And it was. And as soon as we recognized that and encouraged her to give that fear back, her pain went away. And her C-section scar had more mobility to it. And what we need to understand and remember is that when someone's giving birth, their field of energy of their body expands to fill the room. And you're way more susceptible to what is occurring in the room, what's happening around you. And it just impacts you so much more profoundly than when you're not giving birth. And everybody around her was like, oh, she's a doula. She's into natural childbirth. She shouldn't be having a C-section. But she was actually 100% okay with it. And as we cleared away everybody else's fear, the pain went away. So she was carrying her C-section scar tissue, was carrying the fear of everybody else around her. And just know that the tissues of our body can be impacted by other people's energy. And clearing it away and getting back to your truth, your own body, your own tissues can help with the pain. So another client that I saw had a vertical C-section scar. This was probably about 10 years ago or so that she came in. And I probably to this day, I think she's the one and only new vertical C-section scar that I've ever seen in my practice. And I forget the reason. I think her surgeon just felt like that's the way the baby needed to come out. And when I evaluated her C-section scar right around her umbilicus, she had about a 1 inch section of her scar that was super thick. It was like, I would say, as thick as my thumb. And it was different than the rest of the C-section scar. So I just put my fingers on that thicker part. And as I tuned into it, I could feel in myself, I'm an empath as well. I can feel what's being held in the tissues and what's going on in other people. I felt the anger she had toward the surgeon, but I didn't tell her that because if I do that, that I'm not empowering my patients. I want my clients to feel empowered as I'm working with them. I don't want to feel like, oh, I'm the know-it-all and I don't want to be above them. I want them to feel empowered. So I just had her tune into that area. I go, what do you sense in this part of the scar tissue? And she was just like, I'm pissed. I'm angry. I'm like, yeah, angry at who? And she's like, the surgeon. And it was interesting because it actually went into like this is more spiritual side of thing, but it went back into a past life, I believe, or there was some spiritual connection to the surgeon and her that came up. And clear that, she, as we were able to clear that, she notice a huge shift in her body, and the scar tissue went from the size of my thumb to the size of my pinky in 5 to 10 minutes, however long that took us to help her process the anger that she was holding in her tissues from what her surgeon did. And I was blown away at the change in the thickness of that scar tissue in that session. So keep in mind, if you have scar tissue that is extra thick, minus people who have keloid scarring, okay? But keloid scarring is more consistent throughout the scar tissue itself. It's all thick. But if you're noticing an area that's different and more thick or is more painful, that painfulness in the scar tissue could be trauma being held in that tissue. And you can approach that from a physical level. It's just going to take a long time to help it to release, and it's going to be really, really painful. When you learn how to work with the trauma being held in that tissue, work with releasing the emotion that might be held in that tissue, it's a much easier release for the tissue in the body and your client. And it's quicker too, doesn't take as long. So please keep that in mind. Um, the third client this third case study that comes to mind is a client that came to see me with a C-section scar 5 years after the event. So 5 years, she's got a 5-year-old. She had a labored C-section. And I believe that there was a fear of the baby's survival, which is very much the case when we're doing a labored C-section. Not always, but a lot of times there's like, oh, baby's not doing good. We got to get him out now. There's going to be a trauma response in the body if it's that way. Now, if it's oh, your baby's not doing well, if we do a C-section now, that would probably be best. And we gradually go to the C-section. That's one thing. I think she was actually like thrown down that, not thrown, but like run. They ran her down the hallway to the operating room in order to get her baby out. And that just created this fear response and this limiting belief around her baby not being okay or her baby almost dying. And that's what was being held in her tissues. Now, this client has had pain from the get-go. Another sign that there is a trauma response in the body. That she had pain from the original C-section, and she went on and had two other operations in her lower abdominal area because they were thinking, well, maybe we left something in there. We need to go explore this. And really, there was just trauma being held in her tissues. And as we released that trauma and we helped her to recognize and helped her body to recognize the baby survived, she survived, and everything was okay, the pain went away. And she was so blown away by one session, and she no longer had pain in her C-section scar. And then she kind of came to the realization that, like, well, wait a minute. If I would have come to you right after the C-section, I wouldn't have needed those other surgeries. It's hard to say, but most likely, maybe. So that is, I just want to make everybody aware that not all doctors are trauma informed, trauma aware, understand the impact of trauma and pain in the body. I think we're getting better, we're getting there, but not everybody is. And if you have someone who has scar tissue, and the same thing applies to any scar tissue in the vaginal area as well. If you have an episiotomy or someone's tore, that the emotion, the energy around what was going on can be implanted into those tissues, can be being held in those tissues. And when we can help identify and recognize that, it can let go and the tissues are less painful, they're more mobile, they're more willing to release. And this wasn't a C-section or that, but I had a client who had a knee operation and she had a ACL repair and she had this big scar on her left knee. And I just remember getting so drawn to it. So I just put my hands on her knee and I helped her just connect into that left knee, and she could feel the surgeon's impatience that he was running late and he was leaving to go on vacation. And all of his frustration was in her scar tissue, in her knee. And as I helped her to replay that and release whatever was not hers, her knee had a lot more mobility in it. So that is the importance of our energy, our state of being. And this goes for us as practitioners as well, that our state of being can influence our treatments. And I loved my interview with Kim Barthel at the Birth Healing Summit. I think it was just this past year. And she was saying, we don't need to be perfect. We just need to acknowledge where we're at. If you're having a bad day, just saying it outside or saying it to yourself just so that you don't give that to your client. But know that there's that transference that the tissues can pick up on how we're sensing and feeling. But if we can be honest with ourselves, we can minimize that transference. And so, yeah, there's so much I want to teach you guys. So thank you for listening into this podcast. I hope this was helpful. And just know that if scar tissue is thick, it's painful, there's more being held in those tissues. And when you dive deeper and get to what's being held in there, the magic happens and it releases the pain, it releases the restrictions, it can minimize the thickness of a scar. All right. Thanks for listening in, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode. Please share this episode with any of your colleagues so we can help spread this work and understanding so that all therapists can be aware of what's truly happening in the body when we're working with our clients. All right, take care, everybody. Here is to smoother births, faster recoveries, and helping our clients with their scar tissue. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Today's podcast was brought to you by the Institute for Birth Healing. To discover more, visit instituteforbirthhealing.com. To claim $50 off of any online course, use coupon code podcast50 at checkout. Till next time, I'm Lynn Schulte, founder of the Institute for Birth Healing.